I will classify quadrilaterals based on sides and angles. So we went from classifying triangles and then we constructed triangles. Now we're going to talk about quadrilaterals. So tri means three. So obviously a triangle has three sides. So if tri means three, do you know anything about the word or the root quad? Well, some people refer to a four-wheeler as a quad or an ATV, but a quad means four. So today we're going to talk about four-sided figures and we're going to classify them, which means we're going to put them into groups based on their sides and their angles. You are going to need a ruler or a straight edge. You could probably just use a protractor if you wanted a smaller straight edge, but we're going to be constructing some four-sided figures. All right, now I am going to tell you that we're going to be constructing several quadrilaterals in this little space right here. So don't make your quadrilaterals way too big because there's more than one way to draw this figure, and it's really important that we get as many as possible. So it says construct quadrilaterals, so that means we're going to do more than one, so don't make them too big, with at least one set of parallel sides. So I want you to just take your straight edge, and I want you to draw a four-sided figure with with one set of parallel sides. I want you to pause the video and then come back. Okay, so hopefully you've already drawn your quadrilateral with the parallel sides. Now I'm going to draw one. Ours may not look the same, and that's okay. So I'm going to start by drawing a straight line. Maybe I won't make it green. How about that? How about I make it black? All right, let's try this again. All right, so let's make it just a regular old black line. Okay. All right, so I'm going to draw a straight line maybe. Okay, here's my straight line. Now I'm going to make another line parallel to it. And now I'm going to connect them to make a four-sided figure. Okay, so this is the way that I drew my quadrilateral. So these are my parallel sides. So I want you to use your pencil and I want you to draw the parallel side symbol. So if you remember, it's been a little while since we've done parallel sides, but I want you to draw these arrows. This means that this side is parallel to this side. So you'll notice in my figure, this side is not parallel to this side. I don't know what your quadrilateral looks like, but if you have two pairs of parallel sides and you have this side is not parallel, what I have drawn here is called a trapezoid. So if you did not draw a figure like mine, I want you to draw one like mine right now, and I want you to write the word trapezoid underneath of it because this is a quadrilateral that has two sets of parallel sides, or excuse me, one set of parallel sides is called a trapezoid. Okay, so think to yourself, is there any other quadrilaterals that have parallel sides? What about this figure? What if this side is parallel and this side is parallel and it looks like this? You may know this figure as something besides a quadrilateral. What about a rectangle? It has two sets of parallel sides. So if you didn't already draw a rectangle, draw a rectangle. Okay? All right, what about this figure? What if it had four equal sides like this? What would you call this quadrilateral? You would call it a square. Can you think of any more? We made a shape that looked like this. So let's make our top and bottom parallel, but let's make them kind of off kilter like this. It kind of looks like a rectangle, except it kind of looks like someone just pushed it over a little bit. So this side would be parallel to this side. Let's go ahead and put our parallel marks back here in our rectangle and square too. A rectangle actually has two pairs of parallel sides, but we're just going to label the one because that's what the directions say, one set. Now this side has this actually has two sides that are parallel also, but we're just going to do the one pair. This would be called a parallelogram. There's actually one more shape that we could draw. That's why I told you to make these shapes kind of small because you're going to have a lot. So this is the last one that we're going to draw. So what if you had this shape? It looks kind of like a square, except it's kind of off kilter like our parallelogram. So try to make all the sides the same length. So we have our parallel sides at the top and at the bottom. These are actually parallel too, but this is what you call a rhombus. So now all of these shapes are quadrilaterals because they all have four sides, but they also all have at least one set of parallel sides. So they have another name. All of these could also be just called a trapezoid. Now, the first figure that I drew is just a trapezoid. But this is a rectangle and a trapezoid. This is a square and a trapezoid. This is a parallelogram and a trapezoid. And this is a rhombus and a trapezoid. I know that's a little bit confusing, but as we go along, hopefully it'll make more sense to you. All right, for number 2, we're going to draw a quadrilateral with 2 sets of parallel sides. So we already drew a couple of those in problem number 1. Can you go back and look and find which ones had 2 parallel sides and draw those? And then when you're finished, come back and let's see if you found them all. Okay, so you should have drawn a rectangle because a rectangle has 2 sets of parallel sides. So it has the top and the bottom are parallel and the sides are parallel. Let's see if I can make this nice and straight. Okay, so let's go ahead and label the parallel sides if you haven't already done that. So this is parallel. When you have 2 sets of parallel sides, on the opposite sides you put 2 marks like this to show that these are the ones that are parallel to each other. Okay? All right, so this is a rectangle. So I want you to go ahead and label that rectangle. Hopefully you drew one of those. And then what about a square? Let's draw a square this time because it has 2 pairs of parallel sides, the top and the bottom, and the sides are parallel. So the top and the bottom are parallel, so let's go ahead and put the parallel sides. This is parallel to this side, and these 2 are parallel. So this is a square. And then, what about the parallelogram? And then we also have the rhombus. I'm going to go ahead and draw it too. Okay, so let's go ahead and put our parallel marks. So we have top and bottom, and sides are parallel. And this is a parallelogram. And then we have top and bottom and sides. And this is a rhombus because all the sides are equal. So any figure that has 2 pairs of parallel sides can be characterized as a parallelogram, but some of them have more specific names. This is specifically a rhombus, this is a square, and this is a rectangle, but they are all parallelograms because all you have to have are 2 sets of parallel sides to be a parallelogram. All right. Now this says construct a parallelogram with 4 right angles. So if you look up here, all of these are parallelograms, but only 2 of them have 4 right angles. Can you find the ones that have 4 right angles? Go ahead and draw those. If you can't figure out which ones they are, you can stay with me and I'll help you with them. All right, so hopefully you figured out that the rectangle has 4 right angles, and it's also a parallelogram because it has 2 right sides, or excuse me, has 2 parallel sides. And then hopefully you figured out that the square had 4 right angles also. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and draw these 2 figures. I'm going to label their parallel sides. Now notice that this isn't perfect. This should be straight up and down, but it's kind of hard for me to do that. All right, so we've got our parallel sides. Here's the parallel sides on the square. And then let's go ahead and identify the 4 right angles. So let's go ahead and put the right angle symbols here to show that we have 4 right angles. Now, this is probably going to blow your mind a little bit when I tell you this. Go ahead and label this rectangle and go ahead and label this square. But both of these figures can be called rectangles because the only thing it takes to be a rectangle is it has to be a parallelogram with 4 right angles. So technically a square is a rectangle. These are both rectangles. Probably never heard that before. Now it says construct a rectangle with all sides the same length. Well, there was only one of those rectangles. There was 2 of them, but only one of them had 4 sides that were the same length, and that was the square. So let's go ahead and draw our square. You can make this a little bit bigger because this is the only one that we're going to be drawing in this space. All right, so we've got parallel sides. We've got 4 right angles. And we also have 4 equal sides. Okay? This is a square. Oops, there you go. This is a square. Okay, so what do you call a shape that only has one pair of parallel sides? This is what we call a trapezoid. Now look at this shape. This is technically a trapezoid because a trapezoid only has to have one pair of parallel sides. But because this has 2 parallel sides, we can be more specific and call this a parallelogram. Now this shape is a trapezoid because it has one pair of parallel sides. It's a parallelogram because it has 2 pairs of parallel sides. It's a rectangle because it has 4 right angles, but the most specific name for this shape would be square. Same thing for this shape. It's a trapezoid because it has one pair of parallel sides. It's a parallelogram because it has 2 pairs of parallel sides, but the most specific name for this shape is rectangle. Okay? Explain the attributes that make a square a special rectangle. What is it that makes a square not just a rectangle, but a square? What is it that a square has that a rectangle does not have? Well, a square has 4 equal sides. So that's what we're going to say. A square is a special rectangle because it has 4 equal sides. Explain the attributes that make a rectangle a special parallelogram. So think about this. You don't have to draw this, but I want you to think about this for a minute, okay? I'm going to draw this just so you can have a comparison, okay? If I have, here's my rectangle, and I'm not using a straight edge, so bear with me here. My rectangle looks like this. This is not beautiful, but this is my rectangle. And then I have a parallelogram. Now, a rectangle is a parallelogram because it has 2 pairs of parallel sides, just like the parallelogram. But what makes this not just a parallelogram? What does it have that makes it a rectangle? Hopefully, you thought to yourself, a rectangle is a special parallelogram because it has 4 right angles. This figure does not have 4 right angles. It has 2 pairs of parallel sides, but it does not have 4 right angles. All right, let's look at number 8. Explain the attributes that make a parallelogram a special trapezoid. So again, if you think about this for a second, okay, so here's my trapezoid, and you don't have to draw this. I just want you to look at these as a comparison, okay? So here's my trapezoid, and here is my parallelogram, okay? Now, a parallelogram has 1 pair of parallel sides, and that's all a figure has to be to be a trapezoid. So this is a trapezoid. This is a trapezoid too. This is not a parallelogram though, but this is. Why is this figure a parallelogram? What is special about this that makes it not just a trapezoid, but also a parallelogram? Hopefully this is what you were thinking. A parallelogram is a special trapezoid because it has 2 sets of parallel sides. A trapezoid only has 1 set of parallel sides, but a parallelogram has 2 sets of parallel sides. Okay? Now that was a lot of information. That's why we did not mess with our journals today. We went right straight to our problem set. Use your problem set as a resource because it has a lot of good information there for you.